Hey everyone, this is Modern Randy. Welcome back. I am Randy. Today I'm talking about a Affinity deck, or basically the Affinity deck that is starting to show up and come out. Basically thanks to a new card from Thunder Junction, this Simulacrum Synthesizer, which is a mouthful. So it is a 2 and a blue for an artifact. When it enters the battlefield, you get to scry 2, and then whenever another artifact with mana value 3 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, you get to create a 0/0 colorless construct token that gets +1/+1 for each other artifact you control. So basically like one of those constructs or like the Saga tokens is what you're going to get to make every time you cast, a artifact that costs 4 or more mana, or 3 or more mana, sorry. So obviously that pairs well with cards like, let's say, Affinity for artifacts. So, you get to play Frogmite again, because it's a 4/4 that, or it's a 4 mana 2/2 creature that gets to help trigger that. We get to play Thought Monitor, which is already, a good card, thought cast on a creature, basically. We get to play Mirror Enforcer with Affinity for artifacts, and the Companion with Affinity for artifacts. So, makes sense. You can see how this would be good. Basically, this deck has started to pop back up again. And Affinity started to kind of put up some numbers and do some things. So I kind of just want to go over like a quick rundown of what this deck's doing, why it's showing up, what's causing it to be good, essentially. Basically, the biggest problem Affinity's kind of had for a long time now, since we lost Mocked Opal and such way back when, is that you can't close out games the fastest. You can dump, usually you can dump your board and have, a bunch of little Memnites, Ornithopters, maybe like 1 or 2 Mirror Forcers or the Companion, and you have a bunch of stuff, but it's not really big enough to close out the game. It doesn't do enough, right? I mean, Urza Saga was a great addition with that, with being able to make like those big creatures and having pay off for all these artifacts, but like really, Synthesizer here has just kind of made it a lot better and more cohesive. More cohesive with being able to just make big creatures and end the game very fast. When you're being able to put out, when your Frogmite's making a 5/5, 6/6, 7/7 or whatever bigger, or you're putting down your Mirror Enforcer and it's making another creature that's bigger than your Mirror Enforcer, you're just constantly putting out more and more pressure. It, and puts it into the court of your opponent, needing to have a board wiper bust, essentially, or some way to answer all these constructs that you're making, essentially. So just go over the deck a little bit here quickly. We have our mana base here, which is, we got Dark Steel Citadel, Artifact Land. We got some basic islands, an Orwara, our red-blue lands, which, I mean, you can play, a lot of these decks have been playing the blue-green ones instead, splashing in for Pick Your Poison in the sideboard. This is a list I just happened to pull from a tournament that did well, so I was just going off of what this person was doing. Obviously, you can kind of change your mana base a little bit to, if you want to splash red, splash green, splash black, whatever, but Pick Your Poison has been on a lot of these sideboards, which makes sense. It's a great card. And then we also get to play Treasure Vault, which is an artifact land that you can eventually pay double X and sacrifice to create X treasure tokens. It almost never comes up. This really just says artifact land on it. That's why we're playing it. And of course, we're playing Urza Saga because, let's be real, we all know why this card's good. We also have our 1-drops here that are basically going to be able to get with our Urza Saga. So we have Springleaf Drum to help mana ramp, as well as be a way to get off of Urza Saga. We have Shadow Spear, of course. Being able to get that lifelink and trample just kind of wins those combat mirrors. Being able to just push through damage as well as gaining it all back. When you're attacking with a 7/7 with lifelink and trample, it makes brogging almost impossible, and it makes racing almost impossible. And then here's one of the newest cards also added to this deck from Thunder Junction's Lava Spur Boots. So it's 1 mana and 1/2 equipped. Creature gets +1/+0, has haste and ward 1. Honestly, this card's been a lot better than people expected, and it kind of flew under, I think, a lot of people's radars. I know this card flew under my radar for sure. I wasn't really thinking about this card when I saw it. I looked at it and said, oh, that'd be cool if I opened Unlimited, and moved on with my life. But yeah, card's been doing some real good work, being able to, late game or mid game, being able to make another Urza Saga token when it goes to pop. Go get Lava Spur Boots. Being able to equip your the other construct you just made, and being able to attack with both of them instead of just one, puts a huge amount of pressure on your opponent and makes them kind of, puts the ball in their court and makes them have to answer these questions. We also have 1 Aether Spellbomb, just a good way to bounce problematic creatures and stuff for a turn. Being able to win any kind of like mirror match or anything like that, or if they have like a big enough creature to where your Shadow Spear is not going to trample over and kill them, you know, being able to bounce that and just get all that full damage in. And then we also have Welding Jar. I don't know why that got put over there, but Welding Jar, another great little one. Just sacrifice it, regenerate target artifact. This is a great little catch-all to have. And then we have our Ornithopters and Midnights as our way to kind of help us mana ramp, essentially, with our affinity for artifact cards. 2 Moonsnare Protocol. Basically, just it's Springleaf Drum 5, 5, and 6. Basically, just being able to tap for mana, and it has a channel ability that probably almost never comes up. And then of course we have our full synthesizers here. Great card, lets us scry when it comes into play, helps us just create bigger creatures, and close the game out super fast, and it's great in multiples. And then of course we have Frogmite, like I said, does great with the synthesizer, comes down early as a good little just 2/2 beater. Thoughtcast as a way to refill our hand after we dump them from all our 0 drops, and affinity cards, and then we also have the Companion, Mirror Enforcer, and Thought Monitor as our big payoffs, essentially, for the affinity for artifacts, either making 4/4s or giving us a 2/2 flyer that also lets us draw 2 cards. And then we're also playing 2 Emery, Lurker of the Lock. Just a nice little thing to rebuy our creatures or anything like that, like being able to rebuy a Thought Monitor, you know, mid to late game when you have a bunch of like these little like you know, like you have a couple Springleaf Drums out there, maybe a Ornithopter, a Memnite, like a Moonsnare Protocol, being able just to rebuy that and draw 2 extra cards, get gas back up into the game. Just a nice little hit overall. But essentially this is kind of your game plan, is to go wide, go tall at the same time, and just overwhelm your opponent and make them say this, make them have an answer every turn. Like, you need to answer this, you need to answer this. And then you have, you know, Thought Monitor along with Thoughtcast to help just rebuy your card disadvantage, essentially, by playing all these 0 drops that don't do anything. Like Memnite's not a good card, right? Like it's a 1/1 for 0. Like, doesn't really, it's not really like, no one's excited about that card, but it's exciting when it now leads you into being able to draw 2 cards in a turn or 2, or help you mana ramp out essentially into your 4/4s and things. It's so much faster. Overall, it's a really fun deck. This is kind of a great deck, and this deck's only gonna get better, and I'll talk about that here in a minute. But then just going over the sideboard real quick, if Magic Online will cooperate. So essentially, we have a Grafdigger's Cage, Relic of Progenitus, and Tormod Crypt as kind of our whole graveyard anti-strategy, as well as you're able to get them off of Urza Saga, so it just makes it even better having them in your deck at their sideboard. We also have 1 Pithing Needle, just as a catch-all to pretty much everything. We have 3 Dampening Spheres to help us against the menace that is Titan. Also, Chalice of the Void here for any of the Cascade decks, as well as the same thing you might need to be catching. We have 2 Cursed Totems for the Yawgmoth matchup for sure, and then we have 4 Metallic Rebooks for kind of those control decks or things like that where you counter some powermatic spells. So just a little overall, just, you know, good little sideboard here. Catching all, trying to make sure that we're answering our opponent's stuff and changing it up. But this is the deck as it stands now. I do think this deck is going to change, not dramatically, but change for the better, I think, moving forward here. For anyone who wasn't aware about some of the spoilers that we got recently, there we go. Kappa Cannoneer is coming to Modern. It's going to be in the new Modern Horizons 3 set. And I think that is going to be a huge deal for this Affinity deck. I think that Affinity is going to pop off to some degree. I think it's going to become a lot better of a deck. I think that people are going to have to respect this. Your sideboards are going to see a lot more things to answer artifacts, or to at least answer the constructs that you're making, essentially. Because for anyone who's not aware of what Kappa Cannoneer is, it's a 6 mana 4/4 with Improvise. So you, essentially, like an Affinity for artifacts ability, you can tap artifacts to help cast it and make it cost less. It also has Ward 4, which is basically just, you're never going to kill this card. And then it also has, whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on it, and it can't be blocked this turn. Notably, when Kappa Cannoneer enters the battlefield, he triggers himself, so he becomes a 5/5 as soon as you cast him. Basically, as soon as he hits the field, he's going to become a 5/5. And he only gets bigger and better. So I think that moving forward, this is my prediction after Modern Horizons 3 comes out, is that we're going to see Affinity take more of the shell that it plays in Legacy. Now, obviously, it's not going to be nearly as great as Legacy. We don't have the lands to tap for 2 mana. We don't have we don't have Mocked Opal. We don't have Lotus Petal. We don't have like that super fast mana, right? Like we're not doing super broken things. But I do think that we're going to see more of a blue shell turned into it. I think that Force Negation is going to be able to get played in this deck. We're going to have I think, as it stands now, we have kind of like just enough blue spells to kind of justify Force Negation and being able to turn into a controlling deck. Like we could even get it to where we put, you know, Metallic Rebuke alongside here with Force Negation, being able to just up that blue count and then have more of a controlling deck where, like, as long as we can kind of ramp out this Kappa Cannoneer, like this is going to end the game by itself. If we can just put like one counter on in a turn, it becomes a 5/5. Next turn we can actually attack with it. We get to, you know, play one artifact, make it a 6/6 unblockable, attack for 6. Next turn we're gonna make another artifact, make it a 7/7 unblockable. Your opponent is dead in a couple turns. Like this is just a card that has to be answered and has to be notated. So I do think this is what this deck might come out to, but obviously that's going to be in the future here when we actually get Modern Horizons 3 available. But as it stands right now, this is what Affinity's doing. This is what they are good at right now, and this is what you're going to see. And this deck keeps popping up on Magic Online, and I think this deck is a real deal. I think it's a real contender moving forward, and I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens after Modern Horizons 3 and we see more of the spoilers and stuff, besides just that Kappa Cannoneer. But this is kind of a deck I wanted to highlight. It's starting to make some waves, and I think people are going to get even more excited about it moving forward. It's something I'm really excited about. I really love Affinity. I love the artifact builds of stuff. I know that I have 4 Urza Sagas that I've been desperately trying to figure out how to make them playable in a good deck that can win tournaments. And I think this is probably the next step that I'm going to go after I can, you know, justify buying Synthesizer at like $40 a piece. But this is what's been going on. Good deck. Definitely making waves, and definitely expect to see it here popping off more and more, especially as we get closer to Modern Horizons 3. Coming out, and especially after Modern Horizons 3 comes out, we're going to see this deck everywhere, I think. But that's kind of what I want to go over today. As always, you know, if you like what you see and you like the channel, leave a like, leave a subscribe, comment on what you think about this deck. Let me know if you think that Kappa Cannoneer is going to be good or bad for Modern. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. I think that it's going to be good in the sense of Affinity is going to be a good deck. I don't know if it's something that Modern can actually handle, though, because people in Legacy complain about it already, and they have much more powerful spells and things going on in that format than we do. So let me know what you guys think. As always, I am Randy. This is Modern with Randy. I'll catch you guys next time.